Welcome, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. I'm sure we'll have some later additions. It's Friday afternoon and people are finishing up with the meeting before or lunch or whatnot. But let me go ahead and share my screen and move you guys over here so I can see you. Chat. Okay. All right, so welcome this afternoon to explore the powerful intersection of OER and AI. So I'm going to talk at you a little bit, but I really would love to be able to engage in dialogue and questions. And we're going to look at some deep dive questions. So I'm hoping that you guys are ready to participate. But if not, I am so happy to talk to myself. So don't leave just because I say discussion. I know sometimes I'll click, oh, exit because someone said discussion. No, I'll talk to myself if nobody wants to talk. That's not a problem at all. But if you do feel so inclined to ask questions, argue, give examples, I'd absolutely love that to be part of our presentation today. So without further ado, let's go ahead. And with that, also, don't hesitate to interrupt, raise your hand, put something in the chat. I am awful at monitoring the chat and presenting. So if I don't see it, please interrupt me. If someone else sees it, just say, hey, there's a question in the chat, and I can definitely take a look at that. Let me introduce myself, I suppose, first. My name is Amanda Tainter. I am the Faculty Coordinator of Instructional Design at Reedley College. I'm also the ASCCC OERI Region A lead and ECE OERI lead as well. I have a great opportunity to also be teaching child development classes part-time. That's the world I come from, was a full-time child development faculty at Reedley before transitioning to the ID role. So that's a little bit about me. I also am totally infatuated and in love with OER. I could go on about the benefits of it. Hopefully you're here so I don't have to try and persuade you. You're already on board, but if you need persuading, please reach out and we can have a great conversation around that part of it. All right, so let's look and see how OER and AI can intersect. Today, we're just going to look at how AI and OER go together. We're going to set some norms also for our discussion because AI can be a hot topic and we can get kind of passionate. So we're going to look at some norms as we move forward in this discussion, look at the why there can be some powerful relationships between OER and AI and what we can do, how we can apply that relationship, and then what should we do moving forward as AI becomes such a bigger part of our world. What does that look like for our OER world as well? So what are the norms for discussion? And anytime we talk about AI, it's always great to say, okay, let's set the precedence of what this conversation, what the expectations are for our norms. I'm all about promoting access and crediting sources. So when I talk about an AI, if I've used one in the past, I'll try and be very specific. If it was Claude, GPT, Gemini, whatever it might be. I mean, even Grammarly has AI built into it. So that'll always be a norm when you're talking about AI if you're looking at a specific tool, because there is differences between all of them. So even as you're using it or having and facilitating conversations, if you are speaking about a specific tool, then be specific about that tool. We're also going to acknowledge the complexity and be transparent. There are no absolutes in AI. Something that I say today is going to be different tomorrow. So we always want to be cautious in our advice, and that includes whether we are advocating to use it or even to not use it. This is a rapidly changing world, so we want to be transparent that we are not experts. I've spoken to people that have advanced certificates and degrees now in AI, and they said, there's no way I'm an expert. It's such a rapidly changing technology that really nobody can be an expert at any point in time. We can just have different levels of experimentation with it. We also want to acknowledge and understand that there is bias and shortcomings. All humans hold bias. Humans train AI. So we can't get away from the fact that AI will always have bias. And that's where we come into play in thinking about this critically and understanding that everything that's produced, and this is across the board because humans are biased people, that it'll always have problematic outputs because we're problematic people. So we want to acknowledge that no matter what we do, AI is going to always be biased. Again, keep learning and diversify usage. No one is an expert. So just because you think it's awful today, keep experimenting. Maybe it's better tomorrow. I know even personally myself, for as much as I think there's some great things, If you ask me tomorrow, I might say this is awful, the world's going to end, and we just need to stop using it. So we can change our opinion. We can think critically about it. We can think about it not in an all or none context as well. AI is always going to be, not always, eventually, maybe sometimes it won't, but it's going to be a part of our life for a long time moving forward. So we want to think about it critically and engage in those conversations. All right. So those are the norms for our conversation today, and maybe the norms in every conversation you have with AI, if you think that that's a great way to look at it. All right, so let's get to the meat of our conversation, what we came here for, enhancing and updating existing OER. So I didn't use any slides to level set vocabulary, but I just want to clarify OER really quick, just in case you saw the title AI and came and have no idea what OER is. So OER are any kind of educational materials that, for the context of our conversation today, have the 5 R's. So revise, redistribute, remix. I always forget 2. There's 2 more. Revise, redistribute, remix. This is why you put a slide in, Amanda, and you don't go by memory. What's the other 2? There's 2 more, and they're going to come to me. I do this so much that I forgot. If anybody else wants to put it in the chat and save me, that would be super, super helpful. There's 5 of them for OER. And that's what we're talking about. Basically, it's given a non-traditional copyright license that the author is saying, you can do these creative different things with the content that I've created, and I'm allowing you to do those. Happy to engage more on what OER is. I promise you, I do know the 5 R's. It's just Friday afternoon. I've only had 3 cups of coffee, so we're not at full capacity quite yet. All right, so what can we do about AI and OER? What are some of the options that we can have? Oh, thank you. I knew somebody brilliant would help and put it in the chat for me. I appreciate that, Todd. Okay, so one of the things that AI can be really fantastic about for our OER is to quickly update OER. I'm sorry, AI can be used is to quickly update that OER so it fits the current research and social context. I don't know if you realize it, but there's a whole lot going on in the world right now. And so a lot of OERs, depending on the field that you're in, are probably going to be outdated in some topics as soon as they're published. If you're looking at the sociological context of what's happening right now, if you're looking at computer applications, all of those fields, as soon as an OER is published, and this isn't any different from a traditionally published textbooks like from Macmillan or anything, it rapidly changes that they can't keep up. So this is where OER really has a leg up on traditionally published textbooks, because you can make those changes as a discipline expert to that OER using AI. It can be a quick way to take it and say, all right, put some recent findings that's happening from a sociological perspective. I'm not a sociologist, so I just butcher that example. But you can apply what's happening in our current society, which there's a lot, and update that OER in real time. New biology findings. This was especially pertinent as we're going through all the rapidly evolving research and changes for COVID. This would have been a game changer, and it's still occurring now as we have this research that is escalating in its publications since COVID. You are allowed by the publisher of that OER to go in and make those changes. That is very different than a traditionally published textbooks. So OER can help us curate that information together and make those changes the night before we publish the module. It's so fantastic in that. It can allow us to simplify and adapt the material. This is huge for equity. I teach an infant toddler class, and some of the resources in the book that I co-authored are meant for a higher level research type of course in infant toddler, like neurodevelopment. So the chapters are much more heavier in jargon than I expect out of the course that I'm teaching for my students. And so because it's an OER, I can take that content and I can plug it into the AI and said, I want you to maintain the core concepts of this page. And I want you to adapt it to an entry-level child development student studying to be an infant toddler course. I've trained it and we've had much better prompting than that. But what it'll do then, it'll modify that information in that heavy research grad student level paper and put it at a level that's more digestible for my students. Because yes, I'm still maintaining the academic rigor, but if I keep it at a level that is not obtainable to them because of their educational experience up until now, it's not beneficial. And so in a blink of an eye, AI can analyze that and produce something that is more appropriate for my students. Now, here's the big thing. Human oversight is still necessary. So while I get to save time and not having to rewrite that paragraph myself, I do still need to take the time to read through and make sure all of the content and concepts are being applied correctly and that nothing is being taken out, because AI does like to do that. It thinks it's smarter than you. So it's going to say, you can just take out these 3 paragraphs. They're not important. So there's still a lot of oversight when we're talking about simplifying it and making sure the representation is correct and the true intent of it's correct. But it does save a whole lot of time when we're talking about adapting and perhaps simplifying that text. Another really great way to use AI in adapting and updating existing OER is to find gaps. And this is where, when I'm talking to faculty who I'm trying to convince to make the transition over to OER, is I really encourage them to take your curriculum outline of record, take this OER and plug it in and ask AI, to whatever AI you use, to analyze any gaps that are in that OER from your curriculum outline of record. Not only are they able to see that a lot of OER are just, if not better, at covering content as a traditionally published textbook, AI will easily identify the gaps in that OER that they can then go and search and find supplemental materials to be able to cover. Because we want to make sure and cover our curriculum outline of record and all of the lecture content, lab content that we're accountable for. Outsourcing that analysis to AI will allow us to more quickly identify the gaps in our OER and seek that supplemental information. All right, that was a lot of talking at you. And if you haven't ever been to a presentation, I do like to talk a lot and I hardly ever take a breath. So any questions? That's where the obscene amount of coffee comes in handy. Good. All right. So in addition to adapting currently created OER or OER that's already out there, what are some of the steps we can do to create new OER? And this is where it gets a little sticky and tricky and have a lot of different opinions about this moving forward. I'm going to say in a relatively safer zone where a lot of people agree, but there's definitely some extremes on either end when it comes to what we're going to discuss about creating new OER. Most agree that creating ancillary resources using AI through OER is a great option to be able to have. This is a huge time saver. You're able to take that OER, and again, because it's openly licensed, the author has said, yes, you can plug it into AI. Again, some disagree with that statement, but for the most part, that's what an open license indicates. You can create supplemental materials like quizzes, and I'm going to show at the end a really great quiz builder that New York University created that can make QTI files to upload into Canvas. So you can create Word document quizzes. You can put it in that correct format to create it using whatever materials you fed it. So if you want to create a quiz off of a chapter, off of a section, off of a whole book, whatever you want to do, it's really great at creating those ancillary low stakes questions on quizzes. I'm a huge fan of just low stakes assessment using the quizzes. Discussion prompts. I've really found some great discussion prompts to help engage my students by having a conversation with the AI. Because sometimes it can be really difficult when you're in the trenches of your content to think more creatively about, okay, I don't want to have to post another boring discussion board. What's a great way to create a discussion around this section of the text that will engage the student and make it more difficult for them to just plug and play into AI and produce a response? AI is great with that. And because you are giving it the OER content, it can analyze it and create something that is pertinent to that content that you are looking for the student to reflect upon. You can create case studies based on OER chapters. That is one thing that a lot of OERs a little bit behind traditional publishers is creating those little extras like the case studies and the call out boxes. That's something that you can do now to improve the OER that's already out there. You can plug it in and say, hey, can you create a case study that'll help my students to apply this concept in whatever discipline that you are in. I really like tools like Notebook LM to help create some ancillary materials for my course. And I'm just going to pop up one of the examples. So I'm teaching a human development, child and adolescent development course. And so what I'll do is I'll take the chapter from the OER, and then I will plug it into Notebook LM. And it creates right now, in addition to before it was like podcasts that it would create. So right now it can also create high level or video overview. So I'm just going to play a second of it so you can see the quality. And I think I need to do a new share so I can share my audio really quick. All right. And I'm a trader. I'm teaching for a Moore Park right now. So don't judge me outside of SDCCD. Can you guys see that screen okay? Yes. Thumbs up. All right. Thank you, Anna. Let me know if you
Today, we're
cannot hear it.
diving into one of the most incredible, most dynamic periods of human growth, the preschool years. We're going to break down the amazing physical transformation that turns a toddler into a kid who's ready to take on the world.
If
So I'm just
you've
gonna
ever been
fast forward
around
a little bit
to
so you
age
can
6
see.
and wow, the change is huge. Their torso gets longer. Their proportions start to look.
All right, so all that incredible brain habits for life. First off, don't force it. The minute mealtime becomes.
So this has been a really cool way to use AI to just generate a module overview for my students. So this one is on preschool physical development. I know, so fun, huh? I love it. And so because it's OER, I'm able to take that chapter that I've broken up into my course, I plug it into Notebook LM, which is an AI, and it'll create this visual presentation that my students then can get an overview of the entire module. And this one is 7 minutes, so it's about in that time frame that we want most videos to be, that 5 to 7 time frame. But it's really a great way, instead of me having to generate that module description in text, which nobody reads. It's a great video overview that at least they get some of the concepts in there. So that has been one of my favorite ways right now to use AI in my online teaching. And the tool is, and you see right here, I have my attribution, Notebook LM. If you haven't played with it, it's one of my most fun tools to use. Okay. All right. So I hope I'm back on the PowerPoint. You guys can let me know. If not, I'm just going to keep talking. Thanks. All right. So creating the ancillaries, great use to be able to use AI in that capacity. And then in addition to remixing and revising. So I love open pedagogy. If you don't know what open pedagogy is, it's the process of co-creating content with your students. There's so many different fun applications to this. So with AI and OER, you can adapt modules for new learning outcomes or combine multiple OER chapters into a new cohesive lesson that better serves your students' needs. So you can talk to them and say, okay, we need to meet our core objectives. We want to make sure that on our curriculum outline of record, we're meeting those objectives. But you can also ask students, what are some deep dives that you want to go into this content? And then from there, curate additional OER that allows students to further explore those particular concepts that they are interested in. It allows you to do that super quick. You're not having to spend hours hunting down new OER for them to bring in and co-create new module content with them. It's super easy to just do inquiry in AI. And we're going to talk about using AI to find content in just a bit. So as we're creating new content, like we talked about in one of the first slides, you do need to make sure and analyze AI for bias. Just like humans do, humans trained AI, AI has bias. And this is especially prevalent when we start to create new content. One of the biggest things is we have a lot of stereotypes that will be embedded in AI creation. If you ask it to give you an image of a doctor, it's going to be a white male doctor 99% of the time. If you're talking about anything in science, it's going to be a white male that's going to represent in science. getting a little bit better, but those stereotypes are very prevalent. A, because it was trained with that bias, and that bias is very prevalent in a lot of the published works in the previous however many decades. We can catch and we can correct this and help to put in better information into an AI so we can start getting rid of some of those stereotypes. But it takes human oversight to do that. So whatever is produced, we need to make sure and read it and say, yes, this is an appropriate piece of information that I'm comfortable giving to my students. That's why we'll never get rid of that human oversight. Every time I use AI, it's like, oh, I thought you were doing good. No, I'm glad I'm reading this because that was really bad. All right. So what are some ways that we can help improve discoverability and the personalization of OER? Because that's quite frankly one of the reasons that I really got into OER. Love the cost saving benefits to my students, but my ability to teach the way I want to teach was, for me personally, what really sealed the deal when I made the transition over to OER. So transitioning over to OER allows us to curate the resources that are really helpful for our students. Sometimes before I was able to search using AI, it would take me forever to find a specific resource, a specific video, a specific paragraph that helped me explain a concept to my student. And often before that, I would just give up and say, okay, I just need to create a quick video. What's not that quick when get down to the editing, or write a quick paragraph because this concept is not very clear in this book and my students are struggling with it. AI really has enabled me to find the specific concept that I'm trying to explain. And if I can't find the specific concept, I can work with AI to craft it in language better than I was able to produce on the fly. I'm not an English teacher. I'm not a great writer, but I want to be able to articulate the core pieces of the concept and put it in a great way that students can access more easily. AI is a great way to do that. So we save valuable search time by asking AI, find me these resources, and we'll talk about prompt engineering in just a second. Translation. This, again, here's my disclaimer, always need to have a native speaker take a look at the translation content and make sure it is accurate. Given that most people are saying the translation work that AI is doing is pretty stinking good. So this can be really beneficial if you want to create alternative formats for a book. So if I know that I have a large section of Spanish speakers in my course, I can go in and translate that content and have somebody read it and say, a native speaker, and say, yeah, this aligns perfectly with the English translation, and offer that as an option for my students. Many students are discovering this on their own, but you want to be able to provide that for them instead of driving them to AI to be able to do it. This is an option that you have. Again, have a native speaker review it for accuracy and cultural appropriateness as well. That's a big one. Metadata and tagging. This is far beyond my scope of understanding, but in all my research, AI can do this to be able to create better searchability. Yeah, Todd.
Hi, do you want to save questions for the end, or should we ask while
No, interrupt right away. Interrupt, ask the questions right now for sure.
So translation, tell me a little bit about that. Like, do you translate your entire course into other languages, or you just teach the students how to translate? Just a quick 30-second how you use it.
I'll just put specific paragraphs in. I have not done an entire course in another language, but I'll put concepts in and test it out in paragraphs. And a big part of that is that my native speaker friends, I don't want to take up their time and say, hey, can you take a look at this? And I'm not comfortable enough to just plug a whole book in there and plop it into my course. But it would be a great, to me, option to be able to have on every page, English and Spanish, or English and Tagalog, whatever language is more prevalent in your course. But it is then asking those a native speaker to say, hey, can you review this, because you definitely don't want to completely misrepresent, especially a discipline specific vocabulary word inappropriately to a native speaker. So that's my, I don't know if it's my disclaimer or my explanation. I haven't done an entire course, no, but taken small paragraphs and asked a native speaker to test it and see if it's accurate. And 99.9% of the time it has been.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Um, Personalization, this is something that I know bots have gotten pretty good at. We've kind of gone back and forth in discussions that I've had with different AI experts about the use of this, but I do think moving forward, it's going to be something we're going to see more and more is this AI's ability to analyze where a student performance is and suggest OER resources that might be beneficial to them. This is, can get a little tricky as far as if that's the instructor's role, but a lot of times as our class sizes are growing, we're not able to analyze at the level that we would like. And so AI could analyze the deficiencies in students' produce work and say, hey, here are some pieces of OER that would be beneficial to fill in those gaps of understanding concepts. And you can even do this not at an individual level, but just at a concept level. Let's see, I'm reading the chat. Do we have something like 11 Lab that allows us to do text voice for an online lecture? We don't, like if you're saying a district subscription, not that I know of. I know there's a lot of AI out there that will allow you to do voice videos from text and those types of things, but I don't think to my knowledge that State Center has a subscription to a platform. But if anybody knows something I don't know, then definitely let me know. All right, so let's talk about one of the core challenges, and this is copyright. There's been a lot of conversations around copyright, and none of it is crystal clear, but here's where everything is landing, and it's going to be just clear as mud when we get done. So you'll walk away going, okay, great, I know copyright and AI now. That was sarcasm, FYI. So how do we use OER and AI ethically and legally? And again, this is muddy as we wade through it. It's a big question and it's a new landscape and there's guidance that's trying to be developed, but AI is changing quicker than copyright lawyers can create cases for it. As of right now, AI generated content by itself lives in the public domain. There's a couple of cases that have said, so anything that is generated by AI lives in the public domain, which is meaning no attribution is necessary. Now we're going to look at some of the specifics of that in just a second. The US Copyright Office has been clear, though, that only human-created portions are eligible for copyright protection. So this is where we need to be clear when we're working with AI to create stuff, what part is AI created, what part is human created, and then our attribution, make sure that we're clearly attributing those sections accurately and ethically. Ownership and authorship are still fundamentally unanswered in many ways. So again, this is not going to be very clear when we end. We're just going to take a look at what guidance is currently out there and ways to cautiously, ethically proceed forward. We're creating new opportunities and responsibilities for those that are creating open educational resources to figure out what is going to be the best way forward as we co-create and we know that AI is going to grow. So strategy one is prompting for transformative use. So as we're using AI to co-create our information, we want to be very particular about how we're using it to create our prompt. So regardless of a copyright status, we do have the ethical obligation to use AI in good faith. We want to create transformative new content. We're not using AI to replicate things that are trademark or that have traditional copyright. So that's going to dictate then how we use AI in our prompt engineering. We need to craft our prompts in ways that'll make a difference, and we are avoiding potential copyright infringement. So an example of a bad prompt would be prompting an AI to create a painting of Sonic the Hedgehog. That is blatantly a trademark violation. We've used Sonic the Hedgehog. And if you don't know who Sonic the Hedgehog, it is a trademarked thing. So if we ask it to create a painting of Sonic the Hedgehog, we are very much violating copyright in whatever is produced. AI will give you a painting of Sonic the Hedgehog, but it is using copyrighted material to produce that replication. And so we know very clearly you are violating copyright by doing that. What was produced cannot be put into the public domain. It was created based off the trademark material. So that's a bad prompt. A better prompting example would be to promote AI to create something that's unique. So an example would be to create an abstract book cover featuring a beach and a whale. It is unlikely to infringe on a specific artist's work and create an original creative output. We'll look at ways to verify this in just a second. Another good prompt example would be prompting an AI to write a 3-paragraph description of hydrocarbons. This is generating something that is in general knowledge. Excuse me. Hydrocarbons have been out there for a while. There's a ton of content out there. So you're not very likely that the AI is going to replicate a specific copyrighted text. Now I say not likely because we do still need to do due diligence for both of these. What's going to be produced in our good prompt examples is more likely than the first example to create something new, a new creative expression that, yes, has to be in the public domain, but is not a direct violation of something somebody has created. So we also need to do our due diligence. Even after we've produced something that we think is new and unique with AI, we need to do our due diligence and just make sure that AI is not saying, hey, this is a good text. It looks like it's meeting what they're asking. Here, I'm going to give you some copyrighted material. Because it was trained on copyrighted material, we need to do our due diligence and make sure that what is being given to us is a new piece of information. So search the web. It's a great way to do it. Google is fantastic. Just like we used to do before it was turned in, or at least I did, when I said to a student's work, this looks a little like it's copied. I just copy a couple sentences, put it into Google, hit enter, and if it was replicated somewhere else, it would pop up. Same thing we can do right now. If you're looking at something that AI produced and you think, you know what, I need to really check this out. It sounds like something I've read, or even if it doesn't sound like something you've read, just do it real quick. Take a distinctive phrase and what has been created in that new OER or that new thing from AI, plug it into Google, hit enter, and see what comes up. If it's a exact replication of a sentence, you know, AI, you didn't create something new, you just took something known. So it's a great way to be able to double check that what you've created can go in the public domain and it is not being replicated from a specific text. AI is awful about citing its sources. So even if it tells you this comes from X, Y, and Z article, it's really awful about correctly attributing that. Lolita?
Yes, hi, thank you. Quick question. Can you actually say when you put in your prompt in the AI, can you actually say do not infringe on copyrighted material?
Yeah, you can absolutely say that and it will absolutely ignore you. It does not care.
Well, okay, so it's not
Yeah.
effective. And then, okay, so
Yeah.
my next question to you is, and I'm so sorry, I jumped on 15 minutes after one. So if you did say this, I do apologize if you covered this earlier. My question to you is, do you have any particular AI, like for instance, Microsoft Copilot, do you prefer that over ChatGPT? Or
My
is there any
new
particular ones that you would recommend?
well, my new
Go
favorite
ahead.
right now is Claude, but I go back and forth between what I love and what I don't love. I've got subscriptions to two. I have a subscription both to Gemini and to Claude because I like going back and forth between the two. Copilot has some advantages. ChatGPT is on my poop list because I really don't like it right now, but other people feel differently about it. So it's totally a personal opinion. I like the interaction that I can have at Claude. I feel like it gets me more, but sometimes it's acting up and I'll switch over to Gemini. It's kind of like, you know, picking your favorite kid. When that one makes you mad, you go over and talk to the other one to give that one a break and cool off a little bit. And it's probably not helpful, but
Thank
that's
you.
how I
Thank you.
approach it. You're welcome.
No, that's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, so for text, we know we can copy and paste it, put it into Google and see what it comes up with. For images, it can be a little bit more tricky, but there's not a ton, there are two distinctive tools that can help you to do reverse image lookup. And I would say for images, I'm much more likely to double check it's not a copyrighted image because unless you're putting text in there, it does like to borrow images from other people a lot more than we would be happy with. So you can use something simple as Google Images. Just take your Google Lens out and take a picture of it, and it'll let you know, hey, yeah, that looks exactly like this famous photo in Denmark. You probably don't want to use it. Quick and easy way to just double check what is being generated by AI is a unique piece of material or a unique image. I don't do that for every image. I did not do it for this slideshow because it's just going to be in here. But if I'm creating an image for my textbook, then I want to make sure that it is actually a unique image. And so I will double check it in that capacity in that way. Remember, we are responsible for what we publish. So we need to be able to demonstrate good practices to our students and take the steps to verify what you've produced, especially if you're going to push it out there for other consumption by downstream users. We want to make sure that we're maintaining the integrity of our institution and us as discipline expertise. So it's absolutely beneficial to just take a couple of seconds and do that double check that it's not violating copyright, because the AI, whichever one we use, will swear up and down it is a brand new source. No, I didn't violate copyright. And then when you call it out, oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah, I know I'm right. So it is overly confident a lot of the times. Strategy 3, to ethically remix existing OER with AI. So what if I want to take a couple of different OERs and I want to mix it and match it and create a new something with AI? Creative Commons has been really great about creating resources that can help guide us through that process. We need to honor what the original license is. Hands down, this is an easy way forward. So if you aren't familiar with OER and the Creative Commons license, Creative Commons gives us certain licenses that the original creator is saying, this is how I want you to use the work downstream. Don't want to get into all of it at license, but big thing is just make sure you look for that CC license. And there's plenty of webinars we've done. Happy to help you if this is an unfamiliar territory. So we need to make sure that if we are using AI and feeding existing OER into it, that we're maintaining the original license in whatever is outputted, because we're using it, the original OER, to create something. And that's what the creator has asked us to do, is do that attribution. So for example, if you prompt by saying using, and you put in your what do I put? OpenStax license, our OpenStax book, and it's licensed CC BY, to create a 1-paragraph summary. Your new summary must still include an attribution to the original OpenStax works. Remember, just like we would if we were going to create a derivative off of a openly licensed content, we would still provide the original attribution for that work. Because yes, we are creating something new, but we're creating something new based on that work. So we always want to give that attribution to the original OER creator. We can say it's a derivative, whatever it might be. Using AI does not remove your obligation to credit the original source. Remember the share alike rule. So if you use an OER with a share alike license, and that's the one that's the SA, so CC BY SA, if it's anywhere in there, then your new AI derivative work must be shared under the same license. So even though we've talked about that things created by AI are now in the public domain, if you are intentionally feeding it an OER and creating a derivative off of that OER, you have to honor the original license of that original creator. So if it has a share alike license, you need to make sure and keep that share alike license with the derivative to honor that original creative. Remixing multiple OERs, same thing, whether you're using AI or not, you want to follow the most restrictive license if there's that SA on there. So if you use 2 OERs, you got a CC BY and a CC BY NCSA, which is non-commercial share alike, your new work must follow what the most restrictive license is. So whatever you created using AI by mixing those 2 OERs, you're going to have to use that restrictive license of the CC BY NCSA. Universally, the more restrictive license will always take precedence. So same practice, whether you're using AI or not, we want to make sure that we're honoring what the original OER creator has requested you to do with their work. How are we doing? Good? Great. Okay. So how do we label our final product of what we've made? Be transparent. The world of OER is all about sharing and building and growing together. So don't feel bad like, oh, I used AI. This is awful. Everybody's using AI, and we really need to get into the habit of being transparent about our use. When you combine human authored content, which is CC license, so we don't want to do this with traditionally publisher Macmillan content, they get a little grumpy. We're talking exclusively OER. When you combine that with AI generated content, make sure you mark those attributions clearly. Use an attribution page or the preference of a textbook, however you have done your attributions. For me, I like to have attributions in every page of my Canvas modules, if that's where I'm putting my OER, to very clearly explain what part was human developed, what part is AI developed. So example, images on page 5, 12, and 30, if you're using in the back of a book or on a reference page or attribution page, were generated using AI and are in the public domain. Again, anything created exclusively through AI is in the public domain. All other content is licensed by CC BY 4.0 and was authored by your name. It's very clear right there that we are honoring what copyright law is right now in that AI generated things are in the public domain, but also keeping that original CC BY license or whatever it might be with the original OER authored work by you or somebody else, whoever it is. This transparency really helps us to build that trust with our students because we're saying, hey, I use AI. I allow you to use AI in whatever parameters you have, but we need to be able to attribute those differences. Yeah, Todd.
So is all AI created content in the public domain? Is that the standard for giving attribution? Like this was created by AI, it's available for anybody. What's the license, Creative Commons license, where it's, anybody can remix, reuse
So that's
whatever they want.
CC BY is the most open, but because current copyright law says things that are created by AI have to be in the public domain, that CC license is CC 0. So it's a 0 just with the
Sure.
X through it is an indicative of public domain.
So where does this idea come from that everything created by AI is owned by everybody? It's in the public domain.
Because, and I don't want to misquote what the legislature is because you can't, it is kind of a newly created content, but it's trained on things that were put into it. You're not going to be able to source the original content. So it's almost as though it's created for everybody to consume because we can't figure out what else to do. That is basically reading through it is they don't know how you would tease out all of the different things that were used to create this new piece of information. So we're just going to make it for the public good and say it has to be in the public domain.
Is that California legislation or federal?
It's
Federal.
Okay.
Amanda.
Yeah.
Also,
Oh, hi,
copyright.
Sarah. Who's our
Hi,
OER
sorry I'm
librarian?
late. My
Oh,
Zoom
you're good.
updated.
You're just here just enough time to correct me what I said was wrong, right?
No, it is that, and it's also that copyright law requires human authorship, and AI is not considered human authorship. So if it's 100% AI generated, it's not considered copyrightable material.
See, Sarah had all the right words. I had just the words that didn't make any sense. Thanks for putting it well, Sarah.
Thank you.
And I was right though, Sarah, that is federal law, correct?
So far, there are quite a few, important legal battles playing out, but yes, so far, that's across the board.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that have sued AI. New York Times did. I want to say even Google or some other thing you would consider
Disney,
AI.
I
Oh
think.
yeah, Disney. Yeah. So we're gonna have a lot of lawsuits. But because AI doesn't like to quote its stuff accurately, it's really hard to figure out where it's coming from unless, again, you can take that output, what we talked about in plugging it in and seeing if it's replicated and say, oh yeah, somebody used that exact same phrase. I'm pretty sure this is copyrighted. So what are the key recommendations for you as faculty? We want to find that balance. I love innovation. I'm an instructional designer, so I love new and shiny and fun things. But with any technology, we want to figure out what is going to be the balance for our ethical and responsible use. There is so much potential in productivity for AI, but we never want to do it at the expense of quality or our ethical practices. So it's figuring out what is the balance that's going to work for me in my discipline, for my class, whatever, for my university, my college, whatever context is going to be the good fit. Transparency, be authentic with your AI use. Let students know, yeah, I use this to generate with AI. I mixed and matched. I did the outline. I did this video. Be transparent. It helps students, especially as we're trying to guide them into this new world that we have no idea what they're going to be entering into the workforce, to embed the importance of those ethical practices. We have this great training ground to be able to live by example, and we want to make sure and do that as much as possible. Never underestimate the importance of human expertise. This is the most important one. Even for the amazing and fantastic and blow my mind things that AI will create sometimes, every day it'll create something that go, oh my word, you are an idiot, aren't you? So it's this back and forth of I'm totally feeling validated that I just read what you wrote because it is awful, to being totally awestruck by the fact that AI just synthesized these 3 documents and it was amazing. So we can never downplay the importance of us as human expertise, and continually advocate for that importance, and that importance to students, our ability to say, hey, it created this fantastic thing, but I had to do 3 tries of my human oversight in order to get it that fantastic thing. And that came from my ability to think critically. We need to be skeptical. We always want to assume that what AI is producing is absolute awful, and then be pleasantly surprised when it's not. That skepticism keeps us looking at it through that lens of, I need to check this, I need to review and make sure it's perfect. I need to make sure that it's appropriately representing whatever my core concept is. So being skeptical constantly is going to keep us by reading it and not assuming it's producing something that is appropriate. We want to be the voice of advocacy on our campus and with our colleagues. We want to find ways that clearly articulate on our campus what those policies and those procedures are. So not only do we have guidelines, and I'm never going to advocate for restrictive policies. I'm a huge advocate for, we need to decide as discipline expertise what's appropriate in our class, but we want to figure out what is going to be the ethical way forward, and create the procedures of how this should be used, especially when we're looking at attribution, student data, that type of information. So what are the questions that we're grappling with, especially in the OER community as far as OER and AI? The big one is, when does AI's role become problematic in OER construction? What is this? How much is too much? What point does heavy AI involvement compromise the pedagogical intent or quality of educational resources? These are food for thought, but if we have time, which we might, I'd like to return back to them. But these are things, as you're using OER and AI, to be thinking through, how would I answer this? What do I feel about these things? When does the time it takes to prompt engineer, so to get that right output, outweigh the benefits? If you spent hours crafting the perfect prompt, which I have, wouldn't that time be better spent creating the content yourself? And I wrestle with this all the time when I'm spending so long to create that perfect prompt to get what I want, and realize I probably could have done this better myself. What is that balance between, am I playing? Am I creating something meaningful? Or am I just wasting my time because I want to look at this technology? Can humans maintain their pedagogical intent in heavily AI generated process? So does relying on AI for content creation distance us from our teaching philosophy and learning design that should drive OER? Do we become more detached from our profession, from our discipline expertise, the more we engage with AI to create our content? Does focusing on AI for productivity sacrifice the quality of our OER? Are we prioritizing efficiency over thoughtful, nuanced development that creates truly excellent learning resources? There is no right answer. I mean, maybe you think there's a right answer to these questions, but these are questions that a lot of people in the OER field are continually grappling with and trying to figure out. So I always like to sit there and think through, how do I feel about these? And it changes. It really does change. Sometimes after I'm messing with some AI and find that what you just produced was awful, or oh my goodness, this is creating such great content. It's going to be so beneficial for my students. So just questions to grapple with. The biggest thing, our path forward, how we need to continually look at OER is that our OER and AI and that intersection between the two is we are enhancing, we're not replacing. So we always want to use that in our language. That's our goal, is that AI needs to be used within the context of human expertise and that pedagogy in our subject matter so that we can create equitable content that has that human eye to look for those bias and all those things and make that powerful for our students. We've had the opportunity to be trained in our discipline, to see it in action in the field, to really be the boots on the ground and say, yes, this is how the real world works for this discipline. AI doesn't have that. And so it really needs to be us looking through the lens of our experiences and our education and our discipline expertise and say, yes, this is an appropriate thing that you're saying that I'm going to roll out to my students. And then here are some resources that I'm going to plop in the chat real quick that are just some great, nope, that's not the chat, that's the share. I think those links, nope, too many. Let me do one at a time. Can you figure out that I am unable to multitask? Oops. Let me just do these at one time. While I do this, did you guys have any thoughts about some of those questions that we asked a second ago, or any other general questions or thoughts that you want to share?
I'm interested in talking just a little bit more briefly about OER and the quality of the resources that are out there. I haven't been able to attend the previous sessions this week, so maybe this is already covered, but I'd like to have that conversation if
Absolutely.
we have time, or if
Yeah.
any other people are interested. And I really appreciated everything you presented, Amanda.
Thanks.
The material was great.
Oh, well, thank you. But are you going to tell me now that OER is bad quality? Are you buttering me up to make me grumpy? No.
No, I'm really interested in OER, but when I looked at it a couple of years ago, it there's a lot of effort to find something that was relevant or applicable. There was a couple of different websites. I think one was out of UC Davis, that had different textbooks. But the entire thing seemed like it took a lot of work to find marginal quality resources.
And Todd, refresh me, you're in computer science, right?
No, I'm
Oh,
in information systems. So we're
information
the
systems. Yep.
business
Sorry.
division. We're
Okay.
halfway between comp sci, good memory, halfway between comp sci and business.
Okay.
But also I work in decision sciences and business.
There was a
So
new one that just came out on decision science. I'll send it to you. But yeah, I would agree. In those fields, information systems, computer sciences, the quality has not been as fantastic. I was actually just talking to, we don't have the same field at Reedley, but Simon Sultana teaches our computer science courses. We just talked about this last night, actually at curriculum is, yeah, I acknowledge in some fields, absolutely, the quality is not what is there for traditionally published resources, platforms, those types of things. It is getting better as more money is put into it, but unfortunately, that's really what it has come down to. And the time to curate that. So there's open source, all sorts of platforms, but it takes a lot of time to curate those together and put it together in a comprehensive package for our students, like the publisher has done. So yeah, I agree 100%. For some disciplines, the quality is not there, and I'll never be an advocate for giving our students something that is not going to prepare them for the field. And I really rely on discipline expertise to say that. But in that long diatribe, it is getting better. And if I remember, and if not, send me a note that I know there's a decision science book that just came out. I don't know about the quality, but I just remember going, what is decision science? Who teaches decision science? So we don't have it at there. So I was, I always try and forward resources, and I don't know who to send this to. I'm pretty sure I sent it to Simon. So I don't think this is you, but so anyway, if you remind me, then I can send that to you. But yeah, long-winded answer. I agree. It's getting better. You have the discipline expertise to know what's quality for students. I don't know if that's validating or
Yeah,
helpful.
no, thanks. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I have a few more questions, but I think they'd be more appropriate after this is over. Maybe if you have 5 or 10 minutes, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I had a follow-up with Todd's. I thought you said something in the beginning about having used AI to find OER resources that were like particularly well suited to your learning objectives or the course outline of record. So have you had personal experience with that? And if so, like, how did you frame that? And what AI did you use?
Are you asking Todd or me?
You. And then Todd, is
yeah.
that something maybe that you've tried before, like for looking for targeted OER resources, maybe using AI to find some of those?
For me, I'll answer first. For me, I have. I use it quite frequently because in my courses, there's some very specific concepts that aren't covered in some of the books that are out there. And so I'll use it to find specific topics. I don't like using it to find holistic books because there's all sorts of referatories out there that do that. But when I'm looking for specific topics, I'll use it to try and curate things together. And sometimes it's led me to new resources. Sometimes it can be a little bit more time consuming to flesh through what they've given me that is not openly licensed, and that is. But even the resources that they give me that are not openly licensed, because I'm putting those links in my Canvas site, I can use it to create a ZTC resource for my students. So in to kind of circumvent around your question, it's not all OER that it'll give you, but it does give you free resources that you can link to or find and put in your course for your students, especially since we're a nonprofit public institution. We have a lot of flexibility when it comes to fair use. Now, those things that it provides us that are fully copyright protected, we don't want to publish them with an OER, but we can use them in our courses and provide them to our students. Yeah, we get a lot of latitude under fair use being a nonprofit public institution. And I love using it. I like flexing that.
Thanks for explaining that.
Yeah, you're welcome.